Do you have any insight into what's going on inside that jail? Are they isolated? Are the brothers together? What are the conditions like? If you have anything at all on that, let me know.
So in terms of that, what we do know is that the lawyer...
Did they hit it?
I should ban whoever linked this.
Down.
Wait, what was that comment? My theory.
Is there legitimate concern about their safety?
He's gonna say yes, of course. Oh my god.
I do believe that there is, and Alex, and
these people are bots, dude. What, like, if they're willing to go this far to lock them up on false evidence, like, who's to say that, like, just like Epstein was definitely killed by police, who's to say that the Tates won't be killed by somebody as well? Like, they can even pass it off as a prisoner doing it and blah blah blah.
Illogical to think that they wouldn't be, because we know if someone wants to take out someone like Andrew Tate, this would be the best situation to do so. We've seen it in the past with Epstein and so on and so forth. And
oh, what? I was just gonna say, my interview wasn't good enough for me to get in your intro, but never mind.
Oh, hello everyone. That is our new intro. I hope you like it. I hope you like it. We're getting feisty here. We're leveling up here. This is a fantastic show today that I have planned. I'm very excited about it because, as you well know, I often say I have a very particular set of skills. I'm the mainstream media's biggest nightmare. You're going to find out why today. If you don't know already. Welcome everyone who's always with us. Welcome to new folks tuning in today. So first I'm going to tell you what we're going to do here today. Then I'm going to give some different house rules are a little bit different today, and then I'm going to do a little bit of background. We have a fantastic guest that I have booked for today. An investigative journalist who has been doing
investigative journalist,
objective work on the Tate case, has been doing a lot of digging.
Objective, neutral, journalist, all words I like.
I have been doing a lot of digging, so you combine the both of us. We're going to get to the truth today. Don't you worry. This is a deep dive, as we call it, a deep dive into what I call corruption and red flags in the way that the Tate case is being handled. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the grounds for holding the Tate brothers in prison at this point. What are they? Do they exist? We're going to talk about what was suspicious about the raid from the very start. Prosecution leaks. Some stuff has leaked out from the prosecution. Why has it leaked? What has leaked? What does that tell us about the status of this case right now? The case files have been grossly distorted in multiple ways. We're going to dig into how they've been distorted and the potential why of why they've been distorted. There have been corruption in the handling of witnesses, which we've seen. There are some new updates that just came out last night about that we're going to dig into. And we're also going to dig into the truth about the accusations and whether politics, both the macro, you know, we talk about the system, the matrix at large, can't stand Andrew Tate, we all know that. But there's also some stuff going on locally in Romania that could be playing a role in terms of what's really behind this raid and what's really behind the arrest. So we're going to do all of that. I am going to work a little bit differently. I'm going to just start with what we know now, with the updates, give you some updates, and then we're going to work backward because I think that's the best way to do this when it comes to this case. I want to give you a few updates on the case itself. And he's listening. He can, of course, weigh in on any of this as well, but just some basic updates. Tina Glangian, I don't know if you know who that is, but she has been hired by the Tates. She's a very high-powered attorney. She's an American attorney. So the Tates
what do we know her
are
from?
being represented by...
What do we know that lady from? Any idea? Who is she? Wasn't she involved in some... Wasn't she involved in some other high-profile case? Was she the one who... Nah. Was she the one who defended Jussie Smollett? Nah, no shot. It couldn't have been... It can't be her, right? Nah. Wait, what? No way. Could it really be? Represented Chris Brown, Jussie Smollett, and Keisha. No shot. How crazy.
Romanian representation that they have, and now they have this woman who is a high-powered, high-level criminal defense attorney who is their U.S. representation. The Tates are American citizens, so it only makes sense that they would have U.S. representation as well. And we're going to dig into this. There's a lot of problems going on, by the way. with that attorney's lack of access to them. We're going to get to that and discuss what's going on there.
Okay.
The latest court hearing was this week. For those of you who don't know, the court did deny the defense attorney's appeal. The brothers will continue to be detained.
Jeez.
As of right now, it's until February 27th. I don't know if that will be extended. I have my own guesses as to what will happen, and I will share them with you.
Okay.
This is, remember, an ongoing criminal investigation, but what's key about this investigation is these brothers have not actually been charged with anything.
What?
There are no charges that have been filed.
That's fucking insane. If we were in the United States, that'd be a really big deal. I wonder if we're going to talk about the fact that it's in Romania at all.
There's no charge. There is no trial that has been set. This is an incredibly unique situation in that...
That's so unique.
The investigation's ongoing since April.
Uh-huh.
April of 2022. We are now 10 months in. What is the justification at this point for holding them without charging them? We're going to dig into all that as well. Okay. Tristan, one thing that was revealed, this is not me disclosing any information that's exclusive. I have not had conversations, and we'll get to that. I'm going to give you some background on, my experience with the Tates or lack thereof, and the guests as well. So you know exactly where this commentary is coming from.
Okay.
But the lawyer did say publicly that Tristan has a 3-week-old baby.
Just as a heads up, I reiterate this a lot, okay? And if you don't believe me, talk to a lawyer, Flair, in chat. Judges and every part of the criminal justice system you deal with is very, 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 very human. All of them are very human. If you're gonna say some wild shit, how well your sentence on like a court case related to like a DUI or some shit could come down to what you wear to court when you dress up for the judge. Whether you show up in a t-shirt and shorts or whether you wear a nice suit and you're respectful. Your demeanor and everything and how you engage with the criminal justice system is incredibly important. If you are out here saying over and over and over again,
"Oh no, not a court in Romania. Woo-hoo, the internationally respected Romanian courts. Put me in jail. You put me in jail. I'm gonna walk in there with a pile of money like this. Guards, boom, 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 boom. Get some hose. This cell's mine. Bang, bang. Before you know, I'll be chilling. I'll be the best quarantine ever. I'm ready. Put me in jail. I don't give a fuck.
Fuck the Romanian legal system. I got 11 passports. I can leave whenever the fuck I want. If you're out here saying shit like that,
if I f up big time and England wants me in jail, I can fly on a Nigerian passport, or an American, or an English, or a Polish, or an Estonian. I have so many passports. What, are you gonna block them all? I've got 4 more I haven't even named on YouTube. They can't stop me traveling. There's always a passport I can pull out. There's always a driver's license I can pull out. If you ban one, I've got another one. I've got bank accounts in 19 countries. My shit is diversified. So am I off grid? No, I'm on so many grids. You can't lock the grid on me because there's too fucking many of them.
And they do decide to arrest you, you're wild if you think they're gonna let you walk and not consider you a fucking flight risk. You're insane. You are insane. You are insane. I guarantee you the judge has seen those clips over and over and over again when they're trying to figure out, is this a person a flight risk? Should we let them out? Do we keep them? Like,
for him, it has to be taking a toll on him in some way.
Would there be a jury in the Tate Romanian case? I don't believe it's a jury. I think it's done by 3 judges if it goes to trial.
Tina Glandian also asserted that detaining the Tates at this point, she believes it's a human rights violation, a violation of international law, and importantly, a violation of the EU guidelines. Romania is part of the EU, so is there a violation of guidelines going on there? That's very, very important. Okay, with no further ado, I am now going to bring in my guest for today, who is Suleiman Ahmed. Suleiman is...
So, Destiny, if you get arrested, you're dressing up for court, right? When I did all my court shit in Kansas City, you better believe I showed up in my little jacket and my dress pants and my belt and my shirt, my button-up shirt every time I went. Yeah, of course. Of course I did, 100%. Yes, sir. Yes, judge. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah, of course.
Is an investigative journalist. He's a researcher. He also has a law degree. Some of you were asking about that. He has been digging into this.
A law degree where? Can you tell? Not that I discredit anything, but like, damn, if we're getting international, it would just be nice to know, no?
Tate case, step by step. I've seen him on a number of interviews at this point. He also has a Substack that's worth visiting. I'm going to give him a chance at the end to promote whatever he'd like to promote, his social media, his Substack. We can plug all of that. He's here to go over the findings with me today. Suleiman, first of all, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Before we even dig into any of the components of the case, and like I had said, I'm not sure if you were able to hear, but I'm sure you were, I'm going to go backward here. I'm going to go with what we know now, and then we're going to dig into what's, in my view, gone wrong. if you could share with the audience just first, do you have any personal relationship with the Tates? Are you someone who's spent time with them, or what is your status as it relates to the Tates? I think this is important.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. So with the Tates, I've never met Andrew or Tristan Tate, and neither have I ever communicated with them. Actually, I wasn't even a fan. So I wasn't someone who was against what he said, but I just didn't have much exposure to it. And so up until his arrest, the exposure to it was very minimal. And the only reason I got into the case was because I was looking online and people were basically really attacking him. But the basis of the attack was baseless in terms of there was no evidence. And so I was seeing people posting things and then making wild assertions based on whatever evidence they were providing. And so that's when I jumped into it, to just demonstrate that the flaws in their thinking and the flaw in the journalism. And then from then I started looking into the case deeper and deeper. So I would say when I came into this, I was completely unbiased. But like as with any topic, when you research it, when you understand it really well, you end up forming an opinion on it. So yeah, obviously now, once I've formed an opinion on it, I definitely do think that my Twitter feed is very...
Why does it matter what I wear in court? How is that any objective importance to the case and what I did as a suspect? It's not. It'll determine how the judge views you as a person. Are you taking it seriously? Do you seem like you have respect for the process, or are you just a jerk off? Because if you're a jerk off, you'll do whatever the statutory maximums are for, fuck you hard. But if you're being respectful and nice, he might cut you some slack.
Very much pro Tate, but the reason for that is because that's the conclusion of unbiased research.
Okay, that's perfectly reasonable. I think that from what I've seen, both just from asking you right now and prior, that your motivation for getting involved was to just get to the truth. And that's what our job is, right? To figure out what's going on here. Of course, I'm an opinion person, so I lend my opinion from the start. But I absolutely feel very comfortable. I titled this, Deep Dive into Corruption and Red Flags in the Case. I feel very comfortable saying that there's something fishy going on here. No question. I would also just like the audience to know I've had no communication with the Tate legal team. I've had no interaction with them. What you hear from me today is from my research, the investigative research that I have done on my own. I've watched countless videos. I've never met Tristan or Andrew myself. I had one exchange with Tristan prior to him being arrested because I wanted to have him on the show, and I extended...
Destiny, check his Twitter. Wait, where? Link it. LLB in law. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Mute links is on? Mute links just means you can't type my name and then put a link, you fucking moron. You can still put a link. They just shut down the balloon. Chinese spy balloon shot down. Thank you. I don't know what LLB law means. LLB law. Bachelor of Law. Undergrad law degree. Wait. So he didn't go to law school? Is that what that means? I didn't know you get a bachelor's in law. Oh, but he might be a bonger. That might be totally different. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't have any idea about I don't know anything about bonger shit. I'm sorry. Maybe for bongers, maybe that's their equivalent to law school. No, he hasn't passed the UK bar exam. Destiny, Europe has undergrad law degrees. I believe we have undergrad law degrees in the United States too. Isn't that what pre-law is considered? You get like an undergrad in some kind of legal shit and then you go into law school. Like you can do pre-med as well. Like you can't get like an undergrad in being a physician, but you can get a theology and philosophy graduate student. Academic researcher. Teacher and writer in the fields of Islamic theology. Why are all the Muslims coming out for Tate so hard? Holy shit. Oh my God. Pre-law isn't a degree, it's a program, but your degree is usually anything you want it to be. What is a pre-law program or like a pre-med program? I thought that when you do like pre-law or pre-med, so like for instance, let's say I do like pre-med let's say I do pre-med. What I could do is I get like a 4-year degree in like in biology, and I take a lot of courses that are going to help me so that once I go to med school, I've got like a lot of the basics out of the way, basically. And that pre-law would be like I get a 4-year undergrad in philosophy or whatever, but I'm taking a lot of courses related to like criminal justice or something. Is that like what pre-med or pre-law? Pre-med is just a set of required courses that med schools require. Yeah, okay. All right. My hair looks a little stressed. There you go.
An invitation, and we were working on making that happen. No content was discussed. So what you're hearing today is just a desire for truth. And the reason I have Suleiman on is because I have observed him in many interviews, and I think that he has not only a deep understanding of the case, but also the right intentions and motivations as to why he's talking about it to begin with. So I want to ask you, we're going to start with, and please, Suleiman, if I ask you a question and it's too opinionated or you don't want to give your opinion, that's completely fine. Just feel free to say, I'd rather not comment on that. That's completely understandable. You will be most valuable to us when we get into the case itself in terms of the breakdown, because you have some fantastic timelines. We actually have a few timelines that pulled from your Substack. But I want to ask you just off the bat. To me, I am struggling to find justification at this point for why these individuals are being held. You have Tina Glandian coming on and saying at this point, this is a human rights violation. They have not been charged with anything. Do you see any legal grounds at this moment in time for detaining the brothers?
Well, no, I think I agree with Tina. It's a significant violation of EU guidelines. It's a significant violation of human rights, and it is impeding on international law. Because in reality, what's happening is they had 9 months to investigate, and they wiretapped the brothers. They were looking at their private communications. They had the witness statements of the women. They had psychological reports, and even then, that wasn't strong enough. And now, since then, they detained them, and we know they've detained them for a month, and it will be for another month while they investigate. But you can never.
Hold on.
Can you imagine all the people stuck at the airport?
Oh, I know. They already closed that down.
Yeah, like this whole southeast.
Look at it. Just turned. They just shot something, I think.
Oh, they launched.
They launched.
They launched. They did. Oh,
They just, did they hit it?
I should ban whoever linked this.
Down.
Wait, what was that comment? My theory, Biden is showing China our weak spots. Traitor Biden will hand America over to them.
Down.
They just.
Down.
Holy smoke.
It is coming down.
It is coming down.
Another one just came in too.
They just hit it, yo.
They just shot that thing now.
Let's go.
What?
Or the impact of not having De'Aaron Fox on the floor.
Ever have a scenario where you basically detain someone and take away someone's liberty and then investigate and try and find the evidence? What it should be is, as it is in the United Kingdom and in the United States, but I can speak to the United Kingdom more. Ordinarily, what happens is the police look into the information, they analyze the information, they look at both the pros of the case and the cons of the case in terms of being able to prosecute.
Okay.
And only when they've established all the information, all the evidence, do they then pass that information on to the CPS, which in this case is, in the UK it's called the CPS, but in this case it's called the prosecutor. And then the prosecutor looks at it and he makes a decision. Look, is this information strong enough to go, that when I take it to court?
Why? I feel like, I think I'm just gonna hijack this entire line of argumentation and say, you don't have the right to appeal to other countries' legal systems when you've been on record specifically bragging about going to Romania because of their legal system. Like, I think you just don't have the right to complain. Like, you just can't. I don't think you can do it.
Court is going to be beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's the basis of it. But right now, what they're saying is, the judge is saying, guess what? The information you've given me.
What bumped the Meta stock? Bro, who do you think's been talking to the Zuck all day, every day, okay? He got that D bump.
Gives me suspicion, reasonable suspicion. So that's a well below the threshold of beyond reasonable doubt. So based on that, I am going to remand but guess what? You need to find me more information, and only when you do will we be able to take it to the point where we can try and prosecute or convict.
Yeah, and it's important to note in the United States, what's happening to them right now in Romania cannot happen in the United States. You have 48 hours here in the United States to charge or release. So you can either charge them within those 48 hours or you have to let them go on bail. In Romania, as was just discussed, they can apply for a 24-hour hold, a 30-day extension, and that can repeat up to 180 days. Now, these are U.S. citizens. You know, Tina Glandian was on television, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. The reason she was brought in is because they are U.S. citizens. Suleiman, in your view, is there nothing that can be done legally to protect a U.S. citizen who is clearly in a circumstance where, and we're going to dig through why, there seems to be corruption, there seems to be a lot of nonsense going on in terms of how the case is being handled? And I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but my question is there nothing that can be done for a U.S. citizen who finds themselves in a circumstance like that?
Of course. I mean, the United States just set precedent very recently when Brittany Griner, a WNBA player, went to Russia and was convicted according to Russian law. And she was brought back in exchange for an arms dealer. So that was the level and the extent to which United States made moves to bring one of their citizens back. In this case, they've not even been charged. So these similar level of moves should be made for them as well.
When you argue with these people, what is your intention? Are you trying to convince them or their audience or something else? This guy's never changed his mind. This guy's a partisan hack, obviously. Pearl, I don't know what the goes on in that brain. I think the thing is that oftentimes, if you're somebody that is a hardcore Tate suck, you've never in your life seen a reasonable person give you reason to pause and re-examine if you're being super biased or not. Because generally, anything you're going to hear from left-leaning people about Tate is just going to be, oh, they're bad, they're poisoning the toxic masculinity and blah, 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 blah. So like, you're going to think like, okay, yeah, these guys are probably being held on some political bullshit, like fuck you. I don't think a lot of Tate fans have heard the actual case against him or the things that he said about like trafficking women. So I'm going to sort of present that side of the story and give people something to think about, more or less.
Well,
yeah, well, it's not going to. It's not going to be. Audience, I hate to disappoint you, but this guy, Andrew Tate, has made a lot of people. We're going to get to the political stuff on the end of it. He's made a lot of people in positions of power, a lot of very bad people, very unhappy with his commentary on, you know, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's Greta Thunberg and climate change, whether it's masculinity.
Oh my God.
He's made a lot of people very unhappy, and I very, very highly, almost certainly doubt that the U.S. government is going to be making any moves to try to make his life easier. The message here, whether his legal team is listening or not, to Tina Glandian is get in that jail. And we're going to get to that in a second. Get in the jail, get in the jail and see what's going on. So I want to ask you a question about that now, because she was on television, Tate's U.S. representative, saying that there were unsanitary, inhumane conditions in the jail. We've seen Andrew Tate. I know he's...
Okay, also, just a heads up, I don't know if these guys do anything. This is what lawyers are supposed to say. That's what's going to happen. If I go to a jail in Florida, my lawyer is going to be on TV saying, like, he wants to see his son. It's his birthday in 1 month. The jails are disgusting. He's being mistreated by the police officers. He's got a pre-existing medical condition. He's vegan and they're not feeding him. Like, this is the job of your lawyer. I don't know why these idiots uncritically repeat things that the lawyer is saying. Of course the lawyer's gonna. She should be saying that. That's her job. Her job is to be the #1 advocate for the Tates. But you're not gonna repeat things she says uncritically. Her job is to say literally whatever the she can to try to make you more sympathetic towards them. That's the lawyer's job.
It's not personally tweeting. I don't know who's handling that account. But whoever is handling that account has also made claims that at one point it was said that he was in solitary confinement. Do you have any insight into what's going on inside that jail? Are they isolated? Are the brothers together? What are the conditions like? If you have anything at all on that, let me know.
So in terms of that, what we do know is that the lawyer explained that she did attempt to go see the Tate and she was refused access. So once again, that brings up a huge problem, because if they're not able to be given access to their own legal counsel, that's again violating their rights, violating their human rights, first thing. And the second question is this, and this is just an inference that we can make from that. What is the reason why they're not allowing it?
Have they been denied access to their Romanian legal counsel or just their US legal counsel? Because that's a big difference. Would you really be, are they gonna make you, do you have a right to see every single lawyer from every single country where you have a passport? Like, I don't know, that's... Because I'm pretty sure they're communicating with the Romanian council, right? Because they're going and they're doing the questionnaires or anything. I don't know. I have to look this up.
To see them. Is this something that they want to hide? Is this something that they think is a concern that they don't want the Western world to know about? So these are valid questions that one can surmise from them blocking access for Tina to the prison.
Yeah, and because she's been blocked, nobody can really get insight into what is going on in there, with the exception of the tweets that we see about solitary confinement. I think there was a tweet about cockroaches. I mean, it sounds like a less than ideal circumstance, to say the least.
There are bugs.
This is a very important point. He has gone and hired a U.S. attorney for many reasons, right? Maybe there's an ease of communication there. Maybe there are things that, as a U.S. citizen, he needs to discuss with a U.S. attorney who understands the rights of American citizens. And she went with his Romanian representation together to gain access to this jail. And as Suleiman just said, was denied. What is
there you
the
go.
legal justification for that? There is.
So it sounds like the Romanian legal counsel was allowed in, but the U.S. counsel wasn't. If I'm hearing that statement correctly, that's what it sounds like.
None. So hell should be raised. She needs to get in that jail. I think they are afraid. Personally, my opinion, I think they're afraid that an American lawyer is going to see the level of conditions that are going on there and is going to raise hell. That's my personal opinion. Something's going on there that is unjust and not right in terms of the way this entire case is handled, but I guarantee you the conditions match up with that. I want to ask you, Suleiman, about who is currently detained. We know that all of the talk here is about the Tate brothers, Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate. I had read a report that the two women are also detained as well. I don't know if you can attest to that, and that one woman was hospitalized yesterday. Can you speak to that at all?
That's right, yeah. So the two women were detained, and actually we shouldn't forget about them because the conditions in there do seem to be quite bad. And the reason, again, the fact that one of them has been hospitalized, again, provides us an indicator in terms of the conditions that are in the prisons. So both of them work for the Tates, PA and assistants, as far as I remember, as far as I know. And they've been detained as well. And I think we'll be talking about that in a lot more detail because what's the reason why they've been detained? What's the reason why certain victims are called? Certain witnesses have been called victims. That's something I guess we're going to have a deep dive about. Later.
Yes, we absolutely will get to that. Just to quote Tina Glandian, the lawyer, she said, quote, "We're deeply concerned about them being held inside. You hear horror stories sometimes of things that happen while people are in pre-trial detention. People who oftentimes are then cleared and should be released, and sometimes they don't even make it out." She did say that, yes, go ahead, Suleiman, please.
Sorry, I do. What's important is, what's the reason the women haven't been released? So we'll talk about their reasoning for the men, but that doesn't apply for the women. So that's another important point to consider.
Yeah, do you want to surmise on that now, or do you want to hold till we get it?
Go right basically, the judge gave a couple of reasons why he believes that the men shouldn't be, so the Tates should not be released on our remand. And one of the reasons was that they could leave the country. And the argument he used was that, on one of the clips of Andrew Tate, he says, "I've got multiple passports."
Oh shit, the judge okay. Oh, I was just guessing. So the judge has actually seen those exact videos and has an exact opinion based on, hell yeah.
And the worst thing about that is that video clip from social media has been used. And for me, that's just unacceptable. Like, if you're being viewed from the international perspective, you need to do things in a high level manner. So just to think that they've used something from social media to make a decision is horrendous, because what you should be doing is to determine if someone's got passports is to ring embassies and ring the requisite countries and find out if they have the said passport. So that's the first thing that they have concerns with. And someone like Andrew Tate, he won't be able to leave the country. He's a well-known, popular person, one of the most Googled mans on the planet. If he was to move countries or go to any other country, people would know about it, and then he'd be on the run for the rest of his life. So it's just a ridiculous notion that they think.
Doesn't Romania have other countries around it and roads and cars? What do you mean he can't leave the country? What is he talking about? How far back is Romania? How far back into the Dark Ages are we? Like, what? Is Romania an island in the middle of Like next to Hawaii? I'm so confused. Jesus. Hold on.
I think that would happen. And the second,
Back to our Andrew Tate.
if he was to move countries or go to any other country, people would know about it, and then he'd be on the run for the rest of his life. So it's just a ridiculous notion that they think that would happen. And the second thing is that they said that by letting Andrew Tate go, the view of the people about the judicial system in Romania will decrease. So then one thinks, like, what is it about letting Andrew Tate go that would cause people to think about the Romanian judicial system in a bad way? Well, the only thing one can surmise is that they're concerned that Andrew Tate, who is a very influential man, will speak. And when he speaks and talks about his accusations, it's going to make them look foolish. And so for that reason, they don't want him out. So that's the reason they don't want him out. But then that can't apply to the women, because what's the reason they've been held? They don't have no social media impact. They don't have influence in society. There's been no claims that they have multiple passports. So what's the reason that they've been held? So it's just another example of injustice.
So I would surmise that the reason that the women are being held is because there's a fear that they would speak out and that they would get on social media. You've seen, and we'll get into some of the other women who have been labeled as...
If this was true, why wouldn't they just arrest everybody? One thing I never understand is how these things will be like, the only reason these people are being held in jail is because the government doesn't want them to speak out. Well, then why wouldn't they arrest like all the other girls that are trying to speak out too? And it's like, well, and then you always get into some weird point. Like, well, they're powerful enough to like hold two like multimillionaires in whatever and their associates, but like not others. It always like, it never makes any sense. Like it's that simultaneous like super powerful and not powerful at all. I don't know.
As victims who've come out and said, actually, we're not victims. There was an update on that last night. That's outrageous in my view, that we will get to as well. But I think there's a fear of exposure as to what's going on behind the scenes. And if they're so concerned, frankly, about the Romanian judicial system looking bad, how do they think it's going to look right now with what's going on? That they're being held without charges? I mean, people's perceptions of what's going on in Romania in terms of DICOT, in terms of the political system, in terms of the manipulation are already pretty poor. In the long...
Yeah, but why are they poor? Because of propagandists like you? Like, that? What a stupid thing to say. Like, no shit.
The longer this goes on without justification, the worse it's going to get. One quick note about social media that I will respond to is that if they are using social media as a basis for why an Andrew Tate would be a flight risk, and my audience knows I've mentioned this several times about why I thought, oh yeah, they're worried about a flight risk because of that exact clip that Suleiman just brought up. What else are they using social media as a basis for? I mean, is this guy in prison?
To be clear, by the way, I don't know if you fucking guys have you figured this out yet or how stupid you are. And it's funny because in any other context, a conservative would be like, oh, well, you need to be responsible, blah, 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 blah. People are going to use social media to evaluate every aspect of your life. No shit, Sherlock Holmes. Don't say dumb shit on social media. Your parents are going to use it to bust you. Your jobs are going to use it to you out of employment opportunities. Cops are going to use it to indict you or to actually convict you of crimes. Like, yeah, no shit. People are going to look at you giving a constant stream of surveillance of yourself on the internet for the entire world to see. Why are you surprised about that? That seems just like, it's like the most obvious shit in the world. Like, yeah, duh. Why is this even controversial?
Based off of social media clips, I have to ask.
Stop self-snitching.
Because where is the evidence? If they're using social media as a basis for one thing, is it not, possible that they're using social media as a basis for something else? Highly probable, in my opinion. Okay. One thing before we get back to Suleiman, that Tina Glandian did say they're strong and resilient. They are holding up. If you have seen video, though, of the guys, it's taken a toll. I mean, Andrew seems more, to me, taking that deep breath. Tristan seems a bit frazzled by this. And now that I know that he has a 3-week-old baby that he has no access to and has never met, that's perfectly reasonable justification, by the way, for him to be frazzled.
Frazzled? Okay, sure.
About what's going on. Suleiman, do you think there is legitimate cause for concern about their safety at this point? There's been a lot of talk. Andrew has come out in the past and said, first they're going to jail me, then they're going to they could try to kill me. He's talked about this before. Is there legitimate concern about their safety?
He's going to say yes, of course. Oh my God.
I do believe that there is. And Alex, and
these people are bots, dude. What, like, if they're willing to go this far to lock them up on false evidence, like who's to say that, like, just like Epstein was definitely killed by police, who's to say that the Tates won't be killed by somebody as well? Like, they could even pass it off as a prisoner doing it and blah blah blah.
Illogical to think that they wouldn't be. because we know if someone wants to take out someone like Andrew Tate, this would be the best situation to do so. We've seen it in the past with Epstein and so on and so forth. And
just give me the code, okay? Give me the prompt, okay? And I'll write these people's scripts. I can do it ahead of time, okay? I can write the script for these guys, okay? I can write the script for these guys.
The issue is this. You know, like for example, Tate, people who are fans of Tate call it the Matrix. But we know what it means. It means, for example, the deep state or the liberal leftist Western ideology or whatever it may be. But there's a great, and you've alluded to it as well earlier on, there's a great concern about this guy and the influence that he has on society. I would say the level of influence he has can impact even elections. Because if he was to come out and say, as an example, I support Donald Trump or I support Joe Biden, whatever it may be, that would sway a significant amount.
Are Tate fans just now discovering what a celebrity is? Like, yeah, any celebrity can have an impact on any election. No f***ing shit, Sherlock the Holmes. Like, that's not new. Like,
people. So someone like that is a risk, is a concern, and you've seen it with his cancellations. There would be a situation where they would consider that. And remember, you know, society is very fickle, so they know that they could, you know, these type of things can easily happen and people forget. So I do have serious concerns about that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, Tina Glantian, get in the jail, and get in the jail now. Don't wait. I'm telling you, get in the jail now. She also made a statement before we get to the raid. We're going to go back to the raid. We're going to get to prosecutor links. We're going to dig into the thick of these of these accusations and allegations.
Okay.
Before we get to that, one last question for you before we start our deep dive here. Tina Glantian also said, quote, "There's outside pressures on the proceedings in question." She's saying that due to Andrew's very public profile. I have long argued now, while I've been observing this for the last month plus, that they are...
Is this who you're debating? I'm debating this independent journalist guy. In I think like 3 or 4 days on Just Pearly show in London. That's why I'm going out of town.
Many individuals in media, in politics, are trying to try this case in the court of public opinion. And
no, they're not. They're trying it in the Romanian legal system.
They are trying to make people dislike this guy, pulling clips, doing this, and hoping that will get people on their side, so that if a conviction comes down, or if he's held without evidence, or if there are any shenanigans, there's enough of the population that says, oh, I can't stand this guy, I saw this short, he said this, that there won't be any outcry. Do you believe that they are trying to try this case in the court of public opinion, Suleiman?
Yes, of course.
100%. And you see that throughout social media and media. So in mainstream media, you will be lucky if you can even find 1 or 2 articles that are positive about Andrew Tate. And similarly, when it comes to alternative media, including social media, 80-90% of all articles or all statements, all posts are negative. And that has a serious impact. We've seen on social media, and as we go into the evidence, we'll go a bit more deeper, but we've seen on social media where people take out significant clips out of context. And it's only when you look into it and you look into the context, you realize that there's no justification of that. There's just assumptions made or statements made without any blowback about what they say. I can give you an example. Someone from the New York Post contacted me and he asked me questions. And in there he wrote, the self-proclaimed misogynist Andrew Tate. So I asked him, like, you know, what's your evidence that he's a self-proclaimed misogynist? So he sent me a link of a BBC article. I then looked at the article and I said, that's not a primary source. He then sent me a link to a podcast. I watched the podcast, and ironically, Andrew Tate says the opposite. He says, you guys call me a misogynist, but you're sheep and you're being brainwashed into thinking that, but I'm not. So that's the level of that's the level of impact that social media has, that everyone just assumes he's a misogynist, or everybody assumes he's a bad guy. The negative of this is, as you said, this is actually having an impact on the judiciary, because essentially when we get down to the evidence, it's his word against their word. Well, his word, as well as all the women against the alleged victim's word. And one way of saying, oh, we don't believe him, is because, oh, guess what? There's clips on social media, and so therefore he must be like that. So that has had an impact on the judicial decision making, which is just horrendous, because you would never have that. Like in any other court of law, you would be looking at the videos either in the entirety, in context, or you'd be able to defend it. So I just think that's totally unacceptable. But you're right, that is happening.
Yeah, it is happening. It will continue to happen. Journalism is dead in many
Wow.
places, this country included. I have taken issue and have brought to people's attention that very phrase. My audience will know we've done several articles where we've seen that self-proclaimed misogynist, where you've seen even conservative controlled opposition.
True.
Saying,
Controlled
He's a
opposition.
self-proclaimed misogynist. People just don't do their research, and they're very comfortable saying because they've made a decision about whether they like him or not. And if you follow him at all, you know he does not define himself as a misogynist. And also, all of these people need to get a dictionary because misogyny means that someone hates women. So they need to look up what they're saying, and they need to go back and they need to watch what he's actually said. But these AP reports, remember, this is top-down stuff, right? Somebody at the top writes something, it gets disseminated, there's no questioning, all the robots do their job. You know, this is your matrix. This is your system. Okay, I want to get into, now we're going to dig. I want to start with a raid. I was immediately concerned, Suleiman, when I saw the raid because it seemed coordinated. My first instinct that something was going wrong was like, why are all of these journalists ready with cameras? Why are they at the scene ready to go? It seemed to me that there was some type of coordination between media, prosecution, DICOT, I don't know what it was. That did not seem normal to me. Your thoughts?
Well, it didn't seem normal.
I completely agree. I mean, the journalists were ready.
Yeah, of course you agree with every single fucking leading question she
robots
gives
do their
you, dude.
job.
No shit.
You know, this is your matrix.
Ugh.
This is your system.
Thanks.
Okay. I want to get into, now we're going to dig. I want to start with a raid. I was immediately concerned, Suleiman, when I saw the raid because it seemed coordinated. My first instinct that something was going wrong was like, why are all of these journalists ready with cameras? Why are they at the scene ready to go? It seemed to me that there was some type of coordination between media, prosecution, DICOT, I don't know what it was. That did not seem normal to me. Your thoughts?
I completely agree. I mean, the journalists were ready. The high definition cameras were ready. There was even a scene where the van moves with the Tates inside and the doors open just so the journalists can get a shot. I mean, that's just an example of everyone working together for a common goal. And we've seen that. I mean, this is not...
Don't media get pictures of people getting arrested and all this shit like all the fucking time? Isn't that what the media does? Haven't you ever seen the documentary Nightcrawler?
Not new to Andrew Tate. We saw it with various other people like Kim.com and so on and so forth. But yeah, this is essentially the way they do things.
What is a high definition camera? Isn't by definition every fucking camera high definition these days? Wait, what? What does that mean? I'm sorry.
It is an incestuous relationship.
Yeah, which is deeply problematic because if there's that type of coordination just on that, what are they coordinating on beyond that? You had mentioned, I saw you in an interview, mentioned something about leaks from the prosecution to the press. Do you have any details about what was leaked? And if you've seen those leaks, what does that tell you about what they actually have or don't have on the Tates?
Yes, there's been a significant amount of leaks. And again, that goes to your point about these people working together. So you know this is coming from the prosecution, it's going to journalists, and it's going to media. What's been leaked is this. There's conversations on WhatsApp between Andrew Tate and the women. And that's what's being leaked. But the problem with the leaks is this. First of all, they don't demonstrate the things that they're being accused of, which is human trafficking. And the second thing is this. The leaks are basically snippets of conversations. So this is the argument that Andrew Tate made in one of the, in court was, why not provide all the statements in context? So provide all the text message, all the WhatsApps. And they refused to, the prosecutor refused to include the entirety of the conversations and nearly leaked that to the press. Now, an important point to note is people thought that, because there's a new leak that came out yesterday, and in that leak, what happens is the Tates are saying that the entirety of WhatsApp shouldn't be included in the evidence for the prosecution. But that's a fair legal argument because legally, if you're being if someone's recording you without your consent in certain states in the United States, that would not be acceptable and that wouldn't be allowed in the court.
Is that true? What is this? What are they? If I'm having a text conversation with somebody or a recorded conversation and I give that to the cops, are they not allowed to? I know that the police aren't allowed to do that, but I'm pretty sure civilians, there's no shot. I'll look that up. Like, you're telling me, like, if I took out my phone and started recording in my house, some guy murdered somebody, and the cops got the footage, like, sorry, bro, but, like, you didn't have a warrant to film this?
In certain states it is. And now this is based on a wiretap. So that's just a fair legal argument to make. But
Well, if it's based on a wiretap, that might be different. But that's going to come down to, if Romanian law is anything like U.S. law, that's going to come down to whether or not they did the proper procedures to get a warrant before they did that wiretap. But I don't know if we know the evidence for that yet, if they had those warrants or not yet. So I don't know how we can comment on that.
What he was saying was, based on a legal argument, it shouldn't be. But if you are going to put it in, put all of it in. Don't put snippets in.
So is this similar to what we saw with the Vice documentary, where you saw exchanges, but you only saw certain snippets? You didn't see you heard those voice memos, but you didn't hear what the girls had said to him. You only heard what he had said. Some were saying it sounded like AI. I don't know. But you didn't hear a collaborative conversation. You heard a one-sided conversation. Is that a similar thing that you're saying in terms of the leaks that came through the press?
It is a similar thing, and they did that because, and you know, with the Vice piece, before I even read the article, I knew that that's what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. So always know that's what journalists are going to do. When they take someone down, they're never going to put the other side in. So before I even read the article and before I even refuted it, I knew that's what they were going to do, and that's what they did with the voice notes. I don't believe it was AI. I just believe that what happened was they didn't put Tate's conversation in there. Agreed. And the second thing is with the text, and then that was proven by the text messages, because again, the text messages were one-sided, and that's an article. And then it's only in the documentary that you saw a scenario where it was just put on the screen for 1 or 2 seconds. And it was only because of avid Tate fans who saw it and then took screenshots and then put it online that everyone saw that there was consent.
Why are you using filter inserters instead of splitters? Wait, where?
Or the Dicot report?
I've seen both Dicot reports. I've also seen the initial judicial document, which was a 9-page document, for the reason of why the judge decided to remand in the first place. And I've also seen the appeal judicial document that was leaked yesterday.
Okay, so is there any evidence in there for you that you saw that would justify them being detained, or that would suggest guilt of the allegations that they're being, I can't even say charged because there's no charges, but you know what I mean. Is there anything in there that you could speak to that could
No, of course, they look totally innocent. Like, why do you even ask these questions?
No, I would say the opposite. Whenever I read these documents, the minimal amount of evidence that's in there, it just exonerates them. It shows the opposite. So let me just give you an example.
Yeah, tell us.
It's just in the leak yesterday, so I've not looked at it deeply. I had a quick look at it before I came on your show. So basically, as an example, one of the claims is that he's human trafficking. But in there's basically a financial arrangement between him and the women. This is the statement of the women, by the way, not his statement. So this is the statement of the women, so the statement of the prosecution. And they say that, guess what? The cut was this. The woman received 50%, Andrew Tate received 25%, and Luana received 25%. That means the woman was receiving double of what Andrew Tate was receiving. How is that extortion? How is that human trafficking?
It's such a stupid, it's so stupid. Like, if I go to fucking Ukraine and I find some 16-year-old girl and I bring her to the United States and I make her do like camming and I'm like, listen here, like you can keep 50% and we're gonna take 50%. Like, how is that sex trafficking? Like, not to mention the fact that he was taking more than 50% because we've already seen him admit as much, but.
That does not meet the definition of human trafficking whatsoever.
And it's interesting. So, I mean, if this is in the reports, then the powers that be in the legal system have seen this stuff, correct? So again, what is the justification? I mean, I don't see how someone's mind can't go to that there's something shady going on here. If this is right there in the document, in the report, Is there any other explanation for what could be going on other than that something here is just dark? I mean, I just don't understand based on what you're saying.
No, I do think that there's something shady going on. In my view, and this is just my opinion, I think that it's just they've decided that they were going to take him out. They decided that they wanted to prosecute him, and I already think that they've already decided they want to convict him. I actually think it's just a predetermined decision, and now they're trying to find evidence to justify that decision. But the evidence just doesn't mount up. I would say, and I would say that the evidence doesn't even mount up to even win a civil case, which is based on balance of probability. So just for your view, is like 51% chance that could happen. So never mind beyond reasonable doubt. I just think this evidence just does not show that. We can later, evidence may come out that that's the case. But right now, if we assume that these leaks and these things that we're seeing is the strongest evidence, it definitely doesn't meet the standards.
Has this dude offered a single differing opinion in response to her super leading questions? Nope. It's just all like agreement, 100% agreement, of course.
Okay, and we're going to get to, in terms of can a fair trial happen here? Have they already decided? We're going to get to that in a second. I want to get to the accusers now. Man, this is quite a timeline, I have to say. I started digging in here, and it was like opening up, I don't know, a treasure chest that was just, it was insanity unfolded. So I want to start with the Moldovan woman. First of all, let's talk about, do you have a sum total of the number of alleged accusers here?
Yeah. So according to the DICOT report, there should be 6. Mm-hmm. 2 have come out and said, we are not victims, and we love the Tates and they are our family. And that's Jasmine and Beatrice. So we have 4 left over. 2 we know about, which is the woman who is Moldovan and from London.
The American.
And the second one is the one from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 2 we don't know about. So they could exist or they may not exist.
Okay, good.
Do we know, has there been any evidence that these are the women that the Romanian prosecutors are referring to? Do we know that for sure yet? Or is this just, do we just all kind of like assume that? I'm trying to figure out if that's been confirmed or not. I've seen it claimed a lot, so maybe it's true, but I don't know if it's true.
That means my numbers are right, which makes me happy. Okay, let's talk about the Moldovan woman. Let's dig into first the accusations. Can you tell me what those accusations are specifically? And speak a little bit about the background there, the witness statement. What do we know about this woman, and what does the Tate side?
Is there any evidence that the Tate bros were working with other criminal elements in Romania? So 2 pieces to that. One is, I think everybody that operates a casino in Romania is necessarily working with criminal elements. I think that's been said quite a few times. I haven't confirmed that myself. I've heard that said over and over again. And 2, I think Andrew Tate himself admitted that on a thing. He's like, oh yeah, I had to go talk to the mob, blah, 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 blah. I think he said that himself. Now, maybe he's lying, but I think those are the 2 things. I don't think anybody disputes that he's worked with criminal elements in Romania. Like Tate said it, maybe you think he's lying, and then everybody that has casinos over there, I think is lying, or is working with those types of people.
Too, because I've done a lot of research on this, but what are they alleging actually happened here? Speak to me a little bit about this story. I'm going to let you talk for a minute on this because you've done a lot of research on it.
Of course. So the Moldovan woman, she is accused of 2 things. First is human trafficking, and the second thing is 2 accounts of non-consensual sex. And so what that means is, so that's what her accusations are. But let's look at her background and timeline, because it just doesn't add up. So the first thing is this: she was living in London, one of the most expensive cities in the world. She was a stripper in London, and just as an example, so she was already in the sex industry. Why that's important is because a lot of the opposition to Tate have been arguing that actually all of these women were never in the industry, and he manipulated them and got them into the industry.
To be clear, the reason why that echoes so much is because Tate himself said that a million times. Andrew Tate himself said, oh yeah, I've got these women and they didn't do any of that before, blah, blah, blah. Andrew Tate himself has said that tons. And I think Tristan as well. So yeah, people are repeating that, but they themselves have said that.
In reality, she wasn't. She was actually in the industry to the extent where it was more of a physical interaction compared to what happened later. So she was a stripper, and then what happened was she met Tate, and according to Tate, she wanted to become a TikTok star, and she wanted her own beach bar, and she wanted to become famous, and so on and so forth. And there is a video clip out there saying that she wants to be famous. Now, so obviously what happened was Andrew Tate then, based on that, agreed with her, took her to Romania. She flew over to Romania, and then she stayed with other women. So she didn't stay with the Tates. So that's important because that again demonstrates a certain level of freedom.
Not necessarily, dude. That's just not necessarily true. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's not necessarily true.
And then when she stayed with the Tates, there's obviously she was an avid runner, and again people are from the surrounding area have confirmed that. So again, she wasn't restricted in her movement. And then according to again the judicial documents,
people in the area who confirmed it. What is he? Why not give us details? Oh.
Tate says that she used to message him regularly, almost 12 hours a day. So again, he's saying, look, why aren't all those messages being put in as opposed to snippets? And so the reason for the claim was this, that what Andrew Tate said, that she basically blackmailed him and said that she wanted £200,000. And when he refused, she made the complaint within 48 hours. Now, what was the complaint? So the complaint was this.
Okay. Where's your evidence for that? Why are you saying like, I want to see every single text message proving her claim? I want to see, the snippets are enough, blah, 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 blah. I want to see all this, I want to see, okay, fine. Has Andrew Tate produced a single shred of evidence saying she was trying to blackmail him? Where's the evidence for that? Like, and maybe there has been and I just haven't heard about it, but like, that'd be pretty good for you to bring up right now on this show. It'd be a pretty decent thing for you to mention.
She complained that basically there was non-consensual sex. Now, the incident, actually there was 2 other women present because it was basically an orgy. And so you've got all these witnesses who say it didn't happen and she says it does. The second incident,
well, all these women, wait, the other women that are being trafficked by Tate or the ones that are working explicitly as his bottom bitches? Don't you think that maybe they're not the best people to go off of if they are truly what they're being accused of? Now, that's not to say that that's necessarily happening, but that is the accusation. So wouldn't it be kind of silly to take their word for it?
Sorry, and on the same day, there's videos going around of her twerking and so on and so forth. And the second incident, again, although her report was only a few weeks later, in regards to the second incident, she just says, I don't remember when it happened. And then what happened was you have one day before the raid where again they're partying, they're dancing, again that's on social media. And then you have a scenario when the raid happens. And then the worst thing for me is this, 3 weeks later, they end up in the French Riviera, a very expensive luxury holiday, which I would state that most people from the United Kingdom or the United States could never afford. So the question becomes this, how was she able to afford it? If it's that she had a significant amount of money to do so, again, that goes against trafficking because that means she was making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, let's say she wasn't making a lot of money.
I don't know what to say, dude. Because Connor did this a little bit to me as well. I don't know if we should go through, like, I'm not an investigator, but like, I know how to use like decent deductive reasoning, and like, this ain't it. Like, he's making so many assumptions based on things that he could just never know. He's making so many wild assumptions on things that he could just never know. There's a million ways she could have gotten the money. You need evidence for these claims. Now, all of these claims are good things to investigate. Like, okay, you said you were being extorted by the Tates, but like a week after the raid, you're in vacation in some fucking rich place? Where'd you get the fucking money from if you're being extorted? Sorry, right? Those are good questions, but you have to follow that up. That doesn't necessarily mean something bad is happening. It demands further investigation. Where is the investigation? You're the journalist. You're looking at pictures on fucking social media and then you're crying about the Romanian legal system doing the same. Where's your research, right? Like,
then the question is who paid her and why?
So I'm curious.
Oh, he's being even more. Who paid her and why? Is he implying that she got paid off?
Do you know if the claims of the sexual assault that happened when there were other women present was in supposedly in a hotel room in Bucharest. The Tate's assistant, Luana, had said, there were 2 other women there. You're correct in saying that the assessment is that it was kind of like an orgy. Do you know if any of those witness statements of those women saying this was consensual, this was not assault, have any of those statements been entered into the case files as far as you know?
I'm unsure about those specific women, but what I do know is, and I guess this is linked to the idea of what the prosecution is trying to propose, because what you've actually got is this scenario. You've got these 2 women, and maybe 2 more, but let's just say these 2 women who are stating that these things happen, so human trafficking and being taken advantage of. And then you've got all these other witnesses, all these other women, including Jasmine and Beatrice, saying, no, none of these things happened. We all had freedom of movement. We all had freedom to do what we want. We had complete autonomy. We were able to spend money. We were able to do what we want. So what's the best way to deal with that issue? Because you've got so many witnesses. Mm-hmm. So actually the best way is to say they're all brainwashed. If you say that they're all brainwashed, then you can't take their witness statement. And what then would happen is, if the defense wanted to use them as live evidence, or as in the United States they say, in the witness box, what would then happen is their opinion would be disregarded, or their position would be disregarded, because they'll be like, then they'll say to them, look, you're only saying that because you're brainwashed.
How
so
convenient.
You're basically quite deceptively, you're basically taking out the majority of the witnesses.
How convenient. How convenient for the prosecution. We're going to get to that article in the Daily Mail that came out about Jasmina and Beatrice and what they're saying about them at the end in terms of being brainwashed. So a couple of takeaways from me from this, and your story, I'm glad to hear your story follows exactly what my research shows. I have it sitting right here. It's following along pretty much what you're saying. I would like to know how somebody could be held captive if they're out going for a run every day. That's interesting to me. I would like to know how somebody is being held captive if the videos show that a bunch of these women are not only twerking, having a big old party, but there are cell phones in the videos. Last I checked, you can't hold somebody captive. I mean, if they're out running, if they have access to technology, that's not what it looks like when you're held in captivity against your will. That's just, that picture does not add up. Another thing that I had discovered, Tate is alleging that when it comes to a Moldovan woman, that he had found out that she was involved in prostitution, and at that point had asked her to leave. And that was when the blackmail, according to him, happened. Within 48 hours of that, she had filed an assault, a non-consensual complaint, and left the country. So, there's components of this that just don't add up. Jasmina also had claimed, as you suggested, that the woman didn't live with Tate at the time, that she was living with Jasmina. So Jasmina was like, I'm telling you, we were able to freely go in and out. I'm telling you, that's what was happening. She wasn't locked up in the Tate house. She was living with me, and we were coming and going as we wanted. So why is that statement, again, not being taken into consideration? We're going to tell you why at the end, but think about that. What is the justification for that? For not, someone's telling you something and was there experiencing it, and you're not listening. Sounds agenda-driven to me. How much do you know about the American woman and her allegations? I think her name is Dara DeVille, if I'm not mistaken. But that component is not discussed as much as the Moldovan woman. How much info do you have on that, Suleiman?
Yeah. So that one's equally strange. So the U.S. woman allegedly only went to Romania for 5 days before the raid. 6 days. So her entire experience of being trafficked was 6 days.
6 days. Interesting.
Yeah.
And what happened? What is her?
Yeah,
what she's saying? She was held against her will in those 6 days. What is she saying?
Yeah. So according to her, she was held against her will. But then again, you've got a significant problem with that story. First of all, it's only 6 days. The second thing is that she knew the Tate beforehand. And just think about this. She's from the United States. She contacted Tristan Tate via Instagram. Tristan Tate's Instagram is very obvious about the type of lifestyle he lives. He's got the cars, he's got the money, he's got the women. It's simply illogical that somebody would go on Tristan's Instagram and think that he's gonna, partake in a monogamous relationship. It's just, you could see it from his Instagram. She then flies from the United States all the way over to a different country, which is Romania. And remember, United States, there's many men. But what makes her move all the way to Romania? It's because of the lifestyle that she believed that Tristan is going to provide. So she moves to Romania, and again, she's living with these women. She's only there for 5 days. Now, again, the arguments were made that, guess what, she was held captive. But and the proof they gave was, again, people in social media took a snippet of 6 seconds. But the long form of that video actually shows she was going in the house, out of the house. She was going to collect pizza, come back. And the worst thing about all of this is, guess what? A good way of finding out if any of these women are being human trafficked is by looking at the CCTV evidence, both inside the house and outside the house. And once again, the prosecution is not including that in as evidence. And that for me is simply horrendous. But actually, I wouldn't even say it's horrendous, it's illegal.
Why would the prosecution include that as evidence? Like, if there is evidence to exonerate them, wouldn't that be the job of the defense?
Legally, you are meant to be providing the evidence which is both for the prosecution and against the prosecution for the judge to determine whether it's strong enough to remand. So that is one example of what I believe they're doing, which is illegal.
Yeah.
And so with the US woman, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Suleiman. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
And so with the US woman, you have that bit. Also, and I've just had a quick glance of the 20-page document that's come out now, which was leaked yesterday. And from there, it seems like she was already working with the Tates in terms of TikTok before she ever went to Romania. If that's the case, I just need to verify that, but if that's the case, what that means is she already was doing TikTok work beforehand. So going to Romania, there was nothing different. So why is she claiming that she's human trafficked? Again, that doesn't add up. And then you have a scenario where the US woman, she, again, you got the same story about the dancing and then the raid and then the French Riviera. But what's worse than that is the US woman, her social media handles are still working, and now she's changed her profile to human trafficking advocate. So for me, that's problematic. Like, if you have just been through human trafficking, you can't be an advocate for it, because you need to, first of all, go through your own experience and come out of it before you can. So again, if someone was being a pessimist, one would think that she was trying to make this into a career.
What?
Okay, and chat, I see you. I'm going to get to you in just a second.
Okay.
I see questions in there. We're going to get to you in just a second. Just bear with me because I want to lose our train of thought here. So what do we have here?
Okay. Anyway, about Andrew Tate.
You would charge them already. So what is this, a hunt now? I mean, is this something crazy going on here? $20 from prototype 3710. Placing them under arrest in horrible conditions is a form of psychological torture to coerce false confessions. They don't want them to speak out on what has happened to them. They need them muzzled. I would highly doubt, I actually have no concern whatsoever that the Tates would be coerced into false confessions.
What?
Not the Tates, but the women could be. So imagine you brought, like, one of them's in hospital. If for 6 months, if you try to break them women down.
Oh, that, yes.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, that is a fair point. I was thinking of it from the perspective of the Tates, but you're right. They've got the 2 women in there. I'm sure there's a lot of coercion, a lot of conversations going on in there, which is another reason, again, get the lawyer.
Why would they think that the prosecution could break the women down to saying false things, but not the Tates?
In there. That lawyer needs to get in there today. Okay, I want to talk about.
And remember, the women have come out and said that when Diacop came, they tried to coerce their testimony. So we know that's happening.
Yeah, is that the Ukrainian woman that you're referencing right now?
That's right.
Yeah, so a Ukrainian woman came out and said, there was a video, I think we're probably referencing the same video. She came out and said,
yeah,
I'm being coerced. Like, they're trying to get me to say stuff that didn't happen. I'm being manipulated. And if she's coming out, by the way, it takes a lot of courage for these women to come and speak out, because they know the second they do, they're going to be targeted in some way. But if she's saying that, is that a pattern that's going on? I want to talk about the case files for a second with you. So initially, with the first hearing, you see that the Tate team was presented with what looked like 17,000 documents. Within 45 minutes, they had to review all these documents. I'm hearing that a lot of them were irrelevant. Then you add in the fact that surveillance cameras aren't being submitted to the case files. Then you add in these 2 women, Beatrice and Jasmina, who are saying, we're not victims. We're repeatedly labeled as victims in these case files. Our statements are not being properly recorded. They also, I believe, have cameras set up outside of their houses. I think Jasmina had suggested that they had confiscated them, but they're not actually using them to prove that there was fluid movement in and out of the house. So what is what is going on here with the case files? Is there anything additional that you would add to that? And what is the agenda here, Suleiman?
Yeah. So I would say I agree. Everything you've said, you've summarized brilliantly. But in addition to that, they basically had a scenario where the next hearing, they actually finally gave them the case files, because previously they let them look at them, but then they took them back. The second time they actually gave them, but only one day before the actual hearing. So again, not enough time to go through it, and it was mostly irrelevant information. Another important point to note is, and I just thought about this now while you've been interviewing, so I do need to double check this. But Luana said in her interview in April that the women are not allowed to leave the country when there's an ongoing investigation, and yet both of them have left the country.
Yeah, you're talking. Where are these women? Doesn't that seem odd to you that you would make this statement and then you would just run? I mean, that just doesn't seem. It just doesn't seem something is wrong. Again, if the fish stinks, it stinks. It just does. You were also part of an interview, Suleiman, with Tom Kahn, who's a longtime friend of Andrew Tate. I saw you and him sat side by side and interviewed Jasmina. I think it was last week. And she was talking about, you were asking her point blank, you know, were you victimized? And she's outright saying that she was not a victim. There has since been, and we're going to dig into this article in a second, since been a report that came out that Romanian judges are ruling that those women have been brainwashed.
Okay. We're almost through this, guys.
Including the woman that you spoke to that day. Did you have an impression upon speaking with Jasmina that Jasmina was brainwashed?
Not at all. I would say it's completely the opposite. She was just very confident, very extrovert, very direct in the way she answered questions, you know, spoke when she wanted to speak. I would say it's the opposite. She was literally the opposite of someone who could be brainwashed, in my view. She was even talking about things that we didn't put in the final cup, you know, about COVID and these type of things, which weren't even, because they weren't relevant to the interview and these type of things. She was just talking about so many things that a mind that is controlled, that is brainwashed, just would not think about that. So not at all, it's complete opposite.
So my assessment here is that the witness statements here in multiple cases are too damaging to the prosecution, that they just simply aren't allowing them to surface, that the camera footage and multiple components of this case that are not being properly assessed would take down a bulk of these allegations.
She says with no idea of anything
from
whatsoever.
From a legal perspective, what can the American legal team force in terms of, can they force this footage to be assessed? Can they force these statements to be properly reviewed? What can an American lawyer do when it's really outside of her purview? What can she do here, Suleiman?
Well, what she can do is...
There's not much she can do because it's not being tried in America. It's being tried in Romania, my friend. You can't just do whatever crime you want around the world and expect the United States to bail you out unless it's some hardcore political shit.
Is help support the Romanian prosecutors, the Romanian legal team. And there's two ways of doing that. So first of all, the Romanian legal team can obviously use the Romanian law to demonstrate why what they're doing is actually illegal. It's actually illegal according to Romanian law. They should be including these evidences, even if it's against the prosecution. But in addition to that, what she can do is, because what if they don't listen to her? What if there's a scenario where the prosecutor and the judge are in cahoots and they're not listening? So what the American lawyer can do is, first of all, explain it to the press, explain it to the government, explain it to society, say, look, these things are happening and they're contravening actual Romanian law, as well as human rights and international law and so on and so forth, to put the pressure on the prosecutor and on the judge and the judicial system to act appropriately. Because this is one example of definitely the contravening law.
But does it strike you as odd that hasn't happened already? I mean, I'm watching this case unfold, and I'm just like, what is going on in terms of this legal team that they are not forcing some of this stuff? I mean, you're using words like illegal. We're talking about human rights violations. There's a piece missing here for me as to why Tate's own representatives aren't standing their ground more firmly in this and doing something about this. Now, and I'm not speaking to potential evidence that may exist behind the scenes. This is just about what we already know and what is not being allowed to have its proper day in court to shine in terms of evidence. So, I mean, I just don't understand. I'm deeply confused as to what's going on there with his own representation.
I agree. And my hope is that with this new legal team that has been added on, that there'll be more focused representation of the Tates to demonstrate that what's happening is contravening their rights.
Okay, I want to go to an article. So this was the update that happened yesterday. I've seen several of you weighing in on this. Daily Mail puts an article out, says 2 women who denied being trafficked by Andrew Tate and his brother and insist they worked for him willingly are victims and have been brainwashed, says the Romanian judges. The Romanian judges have ruled. We're talking about Beatrice and Jasmine here. Jasmina, by the way, who just did that interview with...
I will make it do that. I'm going to probably be a little bit more of a stickler in this debate than I am normally. If you're kind of like with counterpoints, the reason why we could be kind of mean to him is because he started to cite his expertise. If you're going to cite your expertise, then we're going to attack your expertise. If this guy's going to call himself journalist, independent journalist, law degree journalist, okay, you're saying they're violating international law? What international law? Like, I'm going to need you to cite me some international law that's being violated. It's not enough to just say they are. Like, you need to tell me. You're saying they're violating Romanian laws? Which ones? International laws? What international what? UN laws? Human rights violations? What are these? Tell me about these that are being violated. He should, I think it's fair for him to be asked that question, and he should have an answer prepared for that.
Suleiman just did that interview with Tom Khan. This is what the article said.
Are you okay, Destiny? Where's your wife at tonight? Shit. That is actually a good question. I think she is, I think she's hanging without. What is she doing?
Are you calling me?
Hey, I'm just saying where you're at. What are you doing?
What?
What are you at? What are you doing?
I'm in the room.
Oh, yeah? With who?
Myself?
Really? Prove it.
Should I turn the camera on?
The 2 women both claimed that they worked voluntarily for Andrew and Tristan Tate, but a report prepared by a clinical psychologist said they were both left with trauma and did not recognize that they were being exploited. The Romanian court ruled, and I quote, although the named Woman 1 and Woman 2, both in the statements given before the criminal investigation bodies as witnesses and through the authenticated statements given before the notary...
Aren't you worried that dude is watching the stream right now and is scouting your research? I've thought about that in the past, that like, dude, is GF just that white girl / black girl the divestors kept talking about? She's trying so hard to validate him. Black divestors writing it. I thought about not doing research publicly, but actually, no, I'm fine with that. If I do research publicly, then that's fine. Gives them, maybe hopefully it'll be a better conversation than them just like running around, not being able to talk about shit. So no, I am okay doing it publicly. Let them have better arguments. We'll see.
And submitted by the defense any form of exploitation on the part of the 4 defendants, the Collegial Panel of Rights and Freedoms appreciates that these statements do not reflect reality. Oh, interesting. It is known that in the case of the lover boy or falling in love recruitment method, the victims of human trafficking do not always recognize the fact that they were enslaved and exploited and do not cooperate with the judicial bodies, attesting to the idea that these activities were carried out voluntarily. So this is deeply concerning information. What you have here is a clinical psychologist. Who is the clinical psychologist? We don't know. Who appointed that clinical psychologist? I'm going to ask Suleiman in a second about this. What was her connection to whom? What's going on here? But you have a clinical psychologist that can sit with a woman saying, I am not a victim. I was not exploited. This is not my statement. This is not what happened. And that individual then can just on a dime say, oh, this doesn't, yeah, you've been exploited. You just don't know it. You've been treated badly and now you're damaged and brainwashed. So your statement is null and void. And they can do that subjectively to suit a narrative if they so choose. Do we have any idea who this clinical psychologist is, Suleiman, or how does this individual in a case like this get chosen?
This psychologist actually non-court approved. So the women, although she is a qualified psychologist, the women went to her on their own volition. So, and from my own understanding, and again, I will need to verify this, but from what I understand, these other women didn't actually go to the clinical psychologist. So what the clinical psychologist has done is based on...
So sliding into Insta DMs isn't a real thing. I would say behind Tinder / Hinge, Insta is the next dating app. In the same way that like Facebook is a dating app, right? Like, yeah, people are going to slide into people's DMs and shit on Instagram. It happens, of course. But like women don't just have it to be sluts. Like, there's a difference.
On based on what we're hearing, is if she's made this judgment, she has basically interviewed the United States woman as well as the UK woman, and based on what they've said, made an overarching decision that everybody else is brainwashed as well.
I thought you said Insta was a solid dating app. Yeah, if you're good at Instagram, you can hunt down girls on Instagram. But it was the same way that you could on Facebook, right? Because it's social media. But just because a woman has an Instagram account doesn't mean she's fucking every guy that's in her DMs. The same way that just because Max found Shaylin on fucking Facebook. Just because a woman has a Facebook account or had a Facebook account doesn't mean she's fucking every guy that DMs her.
Oh, so in other words, what you're suggesting is that the clinical psychologist didn't actually meet with Jasmina and Beatrice, but instead met with the women who have made the allegations, assessed that those allegations were that.
Yeah, I would agree. They don't use it to be sluts, but for women, Tinder and Insta operate the same. A guy likes your picture, message you. You're just, I don't know what to say, but you're just wrong. If somebody is on Tinder, it's usually because they're kind of looking for somebody to fuck with, right? Sometimes women get on Tinder, get off Tinder, but a lot of women just like having Instagram accounts. They like taking pictures. They like doing social media. Like, that's like a fun thing for them to have. It's not just being on Instagram. It's not the same as being on Tinder.
Valid, and hence everyone else's assessment was invalid and brainwashing as a result of being contradictory to what the women making the allegations had said. That's what you're saying.
That's the conclusion I've come to based on what the evidence I have. So the evidence I have is the lawyer of the Tate saying that the psychologist that these two women saw was a non-court approved one and was someone they'd seen themselves, and as soon as they saw the person, they flew out the next day. And from what I understand, the information I have, that the Jasmine and Beatrice have not seen a psychologist. So if that's the case, one can only assume that what's happened is that he's made the judgment based on what I've said. Okay,
so we're going to have to talk to Jasmine. Audience, you want to hear from Jasmine? I think we can get her on. I want to know if she spoke to anybody, and I want to know what's going on here. That's outrageous, by the way. First of all, you can't use a non-court approved psychologist, psychiatrist, because who is that person? Do you understand what that means? That means that you can go to somebody, maybe it's your friend, your relative, who knows? Who knows who that person is connected to? And you can get them to validate what you are saying or invalidate what somebody else is saying. Was there money exchange? What is going on there? That is completely corrupt. That is vile.
It's almost like, didn't Andrew Tate say he literally moved to this place because he loved the corruption? And now all of you fucking people are crying about it? Wasn't that his whole point? Like, how is there no, like, what is it called? Is it leopards eating face moment here? Like, is that what it is? It was so funny. It was so funny when Andrew Tate would talk about how corrupt it is. So cute, so funny, such a good meme. And now it's like, what? Corruption?
And,
what is happening outside? Oh, God, they're coming for me.
That's outrageous. Also, what's outrageous to me is now we are selectively, this is not an evidence-based decision, we are selectively and subjectively deciding that one woman's statement is true and one woman's statement is false based on our own subjective opinions about what their experience was. This is not grounded in evidence. This is atrocious what's going on. I'm going to see if we can get Jasmina on the show. I think we want to hear from her and see what's going on there.
True.
Okay. Let me just take a look. We have one. Is it super chat we want to hear? Oh, no, I'm going to hold on this one. We're going to wait. Okay. I want to get to some of the politics of this and just ask your opinion on some of this, Suleiman. So for me, there's two components here. You have a macro and you have a micro. And I know you're not a political analyst by trade, but I would love to hear your take. For me, the macro of this is there's a political narrative that, obviously the system, Andrew Tate talks about the system. He talks about the matrix.
Usually red pill people say that women use Insta as a sort of conduit for relationships with men is because Instagram is usually the most benign social media that women will give away to anyone and therefore the first port of access to random creepy men. So most stories are based around this platform. This is the reason for that. Insta and Tinder are wildly different. I don't even know what that, I don't know how to even parse that statement, but okay.
said he's taking on the climate agenda. He's taking on very powerful people. He's talking about masculinity, which I've said for a long time. You cannot wreck or destroy a society unless you destroy strong men. He's made a living off of building men up in many capacities. People who watch his long-form content know that. I think there are people in positions of power on a macro level that can't stand him. I'm sure the World Economic Forum is not a big fan of Andrew Tate. I'm sure the WHO, I'm sure all the three-letter words that we
It's all the meme orgs. Did we bring up Soros yet? Like,
talk about. I'm sure the Biden administration is no fan. I feel very confident saying all of that. But then there's a component of Romanian politics that's also been fascinating to me. I don't know if you know anything about this, but apparently there was a prosecutor in this case who was applying, I don't know if it's the lead prosecutor, but who was applying for a higher level position. And that position will be announced in March, supposedly appointed around the 11th. And I'm wondering if this prosecutor also wanted this high profile feather in his hat to establish some sense of I'm important, I'm worthy of this promotion. Do you know anything about the local politics and what could potentially be happening here?
Yeah, of course. So in terms of his impact, you're 100% right. I mean, he has a significant impact. Just to give an example, in UK schools, if you mention and
I think the Instagram thing has more to do with the meta of the thirst trap photos a lot of 20-something women post on there. The argument is that there's no reason to show yourself off like that unless you're inviting attention from high-value men. Red pillars wouldn't be against women having an Instagram account if it wasn't somewhere. Okay, that might be true, but most women don't do that. The problem is you only see the thirst traps. You don't see like the fucking dude. I've been with and fucked super beautiful women that, and I look at their Instagram and you can't even tell they don't post anything like that of themselves. There are a lot of women out there that just don't post that much. Like, yeah, of course, if you go on Instagram, you're like, look at all these women, look at all these women. Like, yeah, no shit, those are the ones you're seeing. But what you don't see is how many women don't post that. Because how the fuck would you even know? Like, it's just not true. People think that the average woman is like posting like super ultra scantily clad like fucking pictures on Instagram trying to farm Dubai fucking whalers, and that's just not true. There's a lot of beautiful women that don't post that much like risque shit. They just don't. You have no idea about that. That doesn't happen. Like, it's like you guys can't fathom the idea of a normal woman. Like, you think that a normal woman is somebody posting these insane pics on Instagram trying to farm like hypergamously like the top 20%. That's just not true. That's not how most women work. You only know the women that you're being shown on these like red pill shows. That's it.
Andrew Tate, that kind of situation can get it escalated to safeguarding, and then later could be escalated to prevent, and later you can end up losing your children. So there is and in the United Kingdom, that only ever happened previously for ideologies like terrorism and so on and so forth. So this is the first time that's happened for an individual, although you could say that maybe he represents an ideology which is, as you said, given support to men in a world where basically men's feelings and what men are going through is disregarded. In terms of politics itself within Romania, yes, you have a number of questionable things that have happened that indicate that something strange is going on. The first thing is the lead prosecutors, and that we're talking about, allegedly is applying for the vacant position, which is the head of DICOT, and that position only became available one day before he began prosecuting. So one day before they arrested the Tates. That's the first thing. The second thing is this. Do you remember when there was a paper about some girl coming out claiming that Andrew Tate had texted her?
Yeah.
Well, when you look into that, first of all, there was no text exchange. There was just one text sent. There was never conversation about ages. There was never any type of conversation. It was literally one message. But when you look at it, guess who she was? She was the daughter of a Romanian politician.
Interesting.
And that Romanian, who is Guzman. And so she's basically connected to politicians. And I found that strange straight away.
Well, what, are you claiming that the messages were fake? And it was multiple messages. It wasn't just her, it was other women as well. That was the point. But like, is he claiming that the messages were fake? That it wasn't the Tates that were sending that, or?
Guess what? The girl who's making this claim, she's went to Romanian newspapers, she's went to the BBC, she went to a number of newspapers, and all of these girls are connected to either very wealthy men or Romanian politicians. And then you've got a scenario where the ex-prosecutor, so there's two ex-prosecutors, so I don't want you to confuse them, but basically one of the ex-prosecutors, her husband was being tried in court, and the decision was made before it was even before the date of the decision. So again, it makes it seem like that there's some kind of connection between the judiciary and the prosecutors. And then the last thing is there's an ex-Romanian prosecutor who had the same position as this guy, who said that she's looked at the evidence, and in her view, the evidence does not meet the requisite standards. She finds it unfathomable that they've even been arrested, and she believes that the only way this has happened is because of outside interference.
You know, I've long said innocent until proven guilty. That's a standard that we operate in the United States, although some in media don't operate by that when it's inconvenient for them. But I
so
do.
Brave.
But I'm looking at this case, and looking at what I've seen, I don't believe that they can get a fair trial given what's going on. So my question to you is, has the decision already been made? Is this going to be an instance where you could wind up with a conviction without evidence and just bleeding of corruption? What is your take?
Yeah, I do think I do think the decision's already been made, and hence why they're making these moves. We've already talked about the illegality of not bringing forth evidence that is proving Tate's position, such as CCTV. And why that's a problem is this: if you're just going to look at one type of evidence which makes one look guilty, what will happen? It'll go to trial, and everybody knows. Let's say there was even a fair system. Trial risk means that even if you're innocent, you could end up being found guilty, because that's what trial risk is. But then on top of that as well, the fact that they're doing this does, in my view, indicate that this decision's already been made.
I'm debating this guy,
also
I think in a few
another
days.
layer of this problem, again, with politics is, in order, I keep saying American citizens, because you grow up with the idea that if you're an American citizen and something like this happens to you, your country will come to your rescue.
No, you don't. No, you absolutely don't. If you're listening and you're an American citizen, don't ever think that you can go to another country and violate their fucking laws and you're gonna get fucking bailed out. That is absolutely not fucking true. It can happen in exceptional circumstances where the cases are exceptionally political, but when you're like self-admittedly going to countries to take advantage of their lax legal system and all that shit, and you're openly talking shit about it, why the fuck would you ever think that you're gonna get bailed out by anybody there? What a stupid thing to believe.
Skew. The people in power in this country can't stand this guy. They cannot stand this guy because he is standing in their way. This guy is standing in the face of authoritarianism.
Oh
Single-handedly,
my God.
really, because he has enormous reach. He's talking about your freedom to create and build the life you want for yourself. He's telling men to man up. I mean, this is also, all of this is just standing in the way of authoritarian dictates. So the American government is not stepping in. I mean, the Biden administration, they're not going to step in and come to his rescue, which is why I keep saying it's gonna have to be the legal team. There's gonna have to be something that happens here. And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what that is. I'm gonna try to get Tina Glandian on as well to discuss what's going on there, because I don't understand. She says I'm not allowed in the jail. I'm like, what do you mean not allowed? Like, you got to get in there. Like, end of story. There has to be, I don't know. I'm losing my mind over here. So I want to ask you just to, in closing, and then I'm going to do a little summary for the audience here, but is there anything about this case that we haven't talked about today that you think is worthy of mention, maybe that people don't know? And what are you looking for next? As you follow this case so closely, what are you waiting, what shoe is going to drop next that's going to tell you what's going to go on here?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking for is more information coming out in terms of the evidence, in order that we can actually evaluate it and find out exactly what's going on. And in my view, as we receive more and more evidence, it just exonerates the Tates more and more. So that's important. But another important thing is this, because people try to downplay Andrew Tate's role in society and think that he doesn't have an impact. But he has a huge impact. I gave the example of UK schools, but as you said, the biggest impact he has is on men or young men. And we live in a society which is a feminist, liberalist society where extreme feminism.
When someone like Andrew Tate inspires a huge breadth of positive doctrines and motivations of the youth, do you shrug that off as youthful stupidity from the believers? Do you see no benefit in people searching to create strong, independent members of their generation? I don't believe that's the case. I just don't believe that. I don't know if there's this huge positive influence that Andrew Tate has on young people. Like, all these people always mention that and they bring that up, but I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I think that even if he did have some knock-on effect or knock-off effect or whatever, before, where it's like, oh yeah, maybe some people are going to the gym more, I guess. Like, the guy doing it, like, the guy's a literal fucking scam artist, right? A self-admitted scam artist. His whole life has been built, and his whole fortune and empire has been built by scamming his employees, by scamming the men that partook in his business services, by scamming everything and everybody. So no, like, even if he does exude some positive messages, I wouldn't want my kid learning anything from fucking Andrew Tate, from a loser fucking scammer. Of course not. Why would anybody want that?
Controls everything. And so, for example, high level of male suicides, high level of male homelessness, and so on and so forth is completely ignored. And in my view, as somebody who wasn't a fan of Tate, although now I've consumed a lot of his content, I do agree with a lot of his ideas, getting men to basically find value in themselves and actually getting society to actually value men is the biggest concern of the Western liberalist society. So I totally agree that he is probably enemy number one, because I don't know anybody else who speaks to young men in that manner. There's nobody else.
Do you think this is going to go to 180-day detention? How far you think it's going to go before a charge, and will a charge be dropped at all?
So I think they'll go the full 180 for two reasons. First of all, to punish them, to try and break the women. And the second reason is this: they need more time to find evidence. They've had almost a year and they've not found anything, so they need a lot more time to either find evidence, or, as Tam Khan said, actually, which is his concern, that they might fabricate the evidence.
It's been 10 months, and the only leaks, the leaks are nonsense. I mean, truthfully, even if they had something here, my impression is they would be leaking it, because they wouldn't want public outcry. They would want the public to feel that the detention was justified in some way. Instead, what you have is anybody with eyes and ears who's actually interested in digging is seeing there's no justification for this right now, for what's going on right now. Again, what they're counting on, though, is that enough people have been poisoned by the shorts and by media so that they just can't stand him, and they're letting their emotions and their own, opinion of Andrew Tate, which may be negative, maybe they don't like him, inform how they feel it should play out. And it's like, oh, well, I don't like him, so he should be punished type of mentality that's playing out. Suleiman, any closing thoughts? And also, please tell everybody where they can find you, and because you're going to continue to follow this, obviously, in the next, several weeks, months. I'm sure we'll have you back. If there are any big updates, I'd love to have you back. But please tell people where to find you for updates.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on Twitter, which is Sheikh Suleiman, SHAYKH, and then Suleiman, which is my name. And then my Substack, which is, I'm not sure what the name is. I think it's Suleiman.Ahmed@Substack or whatever it is. There you can find or follow me. And just what you said, I just wanted to make my final comment on that, because I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's an important point. If there was something important, I believe they would have leaked it. Because
Andrew Tate's a loser now? Dude, you were so charitable to his message a few weeks ago. Yeah, because you know what? I did the thing that conservatives actually tell you to do when it comes to Andrew Tate. I actually decided to listen to him and look at full videos instead of just the little clips. And when I did look into the full videos and I got past little clips, what I found out was that he was a scamming loser piece of shit. Even if he wasn't a sex trafficker, he's a fucking loser. Him and his brother laugh and joke about scamming men for embassy passes and for all this shit that he does with his cam girls. Even in the shit they admit to, they're fucking losers. So yes, it's not because I changed my mind and I flipped blah blah blah. It's because I did what you guys want, and I looked up the full context of everything I said. I looked up how they made their money. It was by doing corrupt casino deals, and it was by running a scam cam business where they scammed their customers, pretending that they were going to get girls to fly out and meet them, and they never did it. And they talked and bragged about how they scammed them over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then Tate talks about how he gets women to fly from other countries and lies to them about marrying them and brings them to work for him. These women that don't even have backgrounds in sex work. And then he talks about scamming them by stealing from their taxes. And he gives tips and tricks on how to rob girls from their taxes by lying about how complicated they are. So yes, after I started to watch the full context and do research about who he was, I've decided that I do think they're fucking pieces of shit. Yes, that is my position.
after Tina's interview, which caused them great concern, they then leaked the judicial document yesterday. Like, how can a full judicial document be leaked? And I would say that the judicial document is again another scenario where there's hardly any evidence. It's insinuations, and actually the real evidence is in Tate's favor.
Suleiman, thank you. Audience, stick with me. I'm going to do a little roundup here, give you some pure opinion from me. Suleiman, thank you for caring about objective journalism, for doing the digging, for coming on, and we'll definitely have you back when updates hit. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to get to a chat here. We have two, actually. I'll read both. Shinobi Tekken says, free the Tates. They are the victims of the satanic New World Order agenda. Interesting. Strong men cannot be slaves. Tates are a threat to the likes of the World Economic Forum. Oh, the World Economic Forum can't stand this guy. I'm going to give you pure, unadulterated opinion now in 1 second.
Oh, as opposed to the
Lurker,
objective
$20. One
truth you were
article
giving us
said
before.
That Beatrice and Jasmine had Stockholm Syndrome. Free the Tates. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. Okay, so I tried to keep it, you know, Suleiman has a fantastic reputation as an investigative journalist. By the way, he covers a lot of cases, not just a Tate case. So I wanted to keep that, you know, not opinion free because I'm opinion by nature, but I really wanted to keep that what it is. So I'm going to tell you something now, something stinks in this case. The corruption stinks. You tell me why. You tell me why cameras are not admissible. If there are cameras inside and outside the Tate home that show that these women have free movement in and out of the house, why is that being held? How could you be held captive if there's videos of you sitting on a phone and going in and out of the house? The representation is saying, show these. Okay, you've got women saying, these cameras from my own house are being confiscated. My devices are being confiscated. And they're not even admitting the reality of, like, I had free movement. That's a problem. Corruption, deep.
True.
You've got these women. Let me tell you something. When I saw this Daily Mail article, I started to grow horns. I'm telling you, man, this is some sickness that you have two women coming out and saying, and I've heard.
Okay. All right. Jesus. Well. It's been fun. I love you all very much. It's been a wild ride today. I want you guys to stay safe, be careful, be chill. Promise it's the last Tate debate? I mean, probably not. Like, we're only at the start of it, probably, because if charges are filed, that's going to reignite the entire media cycle, right? And then if a conviction happens, that's also going to reignite. So we've got 2 more big media cycles, 2 or 3. Maybe something big will pop up during the actual court case itself. I don't know how public Romania is with their shit. If they do, like, public trial, I imagine they must, right? But is a series of Pearl debates about it really worth it though? If I can, isn't this gonna be Pearl's like first show back? She's a pretty big person. I think it's a pretty big audience. Why the fuck would I not do it? Do a body painting stream with Kelly Jim. Yeah, I'll do it. He's getting the rapper who claimed to have sex with your wife on stream. Okay, I'm sure he is. Okay. I need to sleep. I got shit I have to do tomorrow because I have to go because I go to London tomorrow, so. Why can't we movie stream when you're gone? Because you guys need to learn to chat again, okay? So shitting on my fucking chat all the time. Ripper, cappuccino, poppuccino, 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 cappuccino, 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 my doing. I will catch you guys next stream arena. Peace out. I think tomorrow, maybe a little later.